Hurricane Dorian is headed back out to open water right now, but not before making its mark in a big way from South Carolina to Virginia.
Here is a live look courtesy of EarthCam in Seaside Heights, New Jersey, and you can see that surf really strong right there.
And live pictures right now off the North Carolina coast. You can see in this picture the heavy winds whipping that flag right around. Our team coverage starts with CBS reporter Katherine Johnson, who is live in Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina.
Dorian took its last shot at the U.S., battering North Carolina's Outer Banks as a Category 1 storm.
This latest development shows that we cannot yet let our guard down.
There's concern about hundreds of people who chose to not evacuate and may be trapped on Ocracoke Island.
There are rescue teams ready as soon as they can get in.
Emergency management officials here in North Carolina say now the biggest threat is flash flooding. We're already seeing water gather here in the Outer Banks, and during high tide, we're expected to see storm surges reach up to 7 feet. The storm's violent winds were on display at this light station off the coast of North Carolina. From space, Dorian still seems menacing. More than 350,000 homes and businesses have lost power. Dorian sideswiped the southeast coast, spawning at least 24 tornadoes. This waterspout became a tornado that tore through an RV park.
2 minutes down from my house, there was 2 tornadoes that had touched down. And I've never been in one. I don't want to be in one.
Dorian also caused widespread flooding in coastal communities around Charleston and Wilmington.
When you've been displaced in a storm like this 2 years in a row, it's tough. It's tough on the family.
Dorian is expected to continue skirting the eastern seaboard throughout the weekend. Storm surge, hurricane, and tropical storm warnings and watches have been issued as far north as Canada. On the Jersey Shore, hurricane flags are up and the beaches are deserted. Katherine Johnson, CBS News, Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina.
And our team coverage continues right now with meteorologist Darren Peck on where Dorian is right now. Darren.
Let's take a look at that on the satellite at this point, Kenny. And it's not just satellite. It's so close to the shore we can look at it on radar too. Let's do it both ways, and I'm going to show you where the trouble spots are here, because we are not done yet. Granted, Dorian is now leaving. It made landfall along Cape Hatteras and the Outer Banks of North Carolina early this morning. It's the only time this thing did that in the United States. That phase is now over, but the impacts from this thing are still being felt. Look how much rain. It is still throwing into the East Coast, but it's not so much the heavy rain up here that's the big concern. It's still down here in the Carolinas and in Chesapeake Bay where the two biggest concerns still remain. Anywhere in purple here is still under a storm surge warning. We just saw that in our reporter's story a moment ago. Up to 7 feet of storm surge. That's a big enough problem. Even though the Bahamas dealt with 15 feet, 7 feet is still a big issue here. And the areas in red, again, northern North Carolina extending up into Chesapeake Bay, still under a flash flood warning for all that runoff mixed with the high tide. That's where the storm is now, off the coast. And if we take it forward from here, Dorian is now just going to work its way up through the Pacific. Will you believe it's going all the way up to Canada and Nova Scotia, where it will still be an issue by the time it gets there on Sunday. Quite the lifespan for this storm, but it's slowly pulling away from our coast now. All right, Kenny, back over to you.
Darren, thank you. 30 people in the Bahamas, meanwhile, are now confirmed dead in the wake of Hurricane Dorian, and officials warn that that number is going to rise. Hundreds, perhaps even thousands, are still missing after the Category 5 storm tore apart the island nation with winds up to 220 miles an hour. Now tens of thousands are also stranded in the devastation as rescuers and aid groups struggle to reach everyone.
Lots of people were waving at us, but unfortunately the priority was to go in and get the critical out that we knew were there. There were maybe a dozen houses left standing in Marsh Harbor and one government building and the clinic that we noticed that were intact. Everything else had major catastrophic damage.
The U.S. Coast Guard also says so far it has rescued more than 200 people. Even cruise ships are helping out, ferrying food, water, and supplies to the Bahamas and evacuating survivors. It's part of a growing international effort to relieve the desperation after Dorian.
We need ice.
We don't have no power. We need generators and stuff to run the power.
We need generators. We get some generators for people.
What we need is
And more help is on the way. This morning, a team of humanitarian chefs loaded a 227-foot ship in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with 20,000 meals that they prepared and ingredients to make plenty more, and then set sail for Nassau.